shifting to Vietnam in November of 1965, when you returned from Vietnam, you said, and I'm quoting, "Involvement was morally right and necessary and probably reversed a shift in the balance of power greater than if Hitler had conquered Europe." In recent weeks, you said you didn't think we should have been involved at all and that President Johnson's decision to expand the bombing wasn't going to resolve the problem. Isn't your position a bit inconsistent with what it was, and what do you propose we do now?
Well, you know, when I came back from Vietnam, I just had the greatest brainwashing that anybody can get.
By the generals?
When you go over to Vietnam, well, not only by the generals, but also by the diplomatic corps over there. And they do a very thorough job.
Saul Alinsky was a prominent radical in 1930s Chicago. He worked closely with the Communist Party. He used to go down and train at the rifle range with Leon Dupre, who was later a mentor of Barack Obama. And they used to train to shoot because they knew the revolution was just around the corner. But that didn't come, so he got a bit more subtle.
Well, Saul Alinsky called for a community organizer to stir things up, to create agitation. In fact, he said, "You'll be accused of being an agitator," and that's exactly what you are. He wanted the haves and have-nots fighting with each other. And they used the conflict as justification for more government to stop the chaos. So they create the chaos, and then they step in as a solution to the chaos. And as Francis Schaeffer said, once this chaos comes, most people will willingly give over to a authoritarianism because they don't want the chaos.
His book was kind of the field manual, if you will, for these activist organizations.
Which President Obama studied and taught at a workshop for 4 years in Chicago as a community organizer for ACORN.
For Mitt Romney, maybe a vote for Hilary Clinton, because the fact is, I've got a far more conservative record than Mitt Romney ever dreamed of having.
Hillary Clinton's 1969 political science thesis, "There is only the fight," refers to an earlier version of Alinsky's training manual. In 1946, she wrote, "Hilary and the cult of Alinsky. True revolutionaries do not flaunt their radicalism," Alinsky taught. "They cut their hair, put on suits, and infiltrate the system from within." Alinsky viewed revolution as a slow, patient process. The trick was to penetrate existing institutions such as churches, unions, and political parties. Many leftists view Hilary as a sellout because she claims to hold moderate views on some issues. However, Hilary is simply following Alinsky's counsel to do and say whatever it takes to gain power. Some of these rules are ruthless, but they work.
Sir, why do these conservative leaders almost, why are they going to Governor Romney's camp? And
some suggest that the fact that Bain Capital owns a major stake in Clear Channel that is on Sean's network, that maybe there's a correlation.
Reach back to one of our heroes from the past, from the 60s, Saul Alinsky. I always try to remind myself of Saul Alinsky when I get confused.
Yet you think there's a real issue with whether he can be President Obama?
Well, I think there is an issue on the flip-flops as it relates to trust. I don't know that he can go on to beat President Obama, given his record. I mean, when there is a question about whether you're running for the White House or running for the Waffle House, you've got a real problem with the American people.
And his big flip-flop to you is what?
Well, I think there's a range of them, but when you have something as central as life that you flip-flop on, when you have a Second Amendment, when you have health care, you have a range of issues that, on taxes, for example, that he's been on both sides of. And I think
if it's between Obama and Romney, there isn't all that much difference, except for the crowd that they bring with them.
It's very confusing to people. I mean, what I have here is Romney's own economic document. This is the first page of tax policy in which he attacks President Obama for class warfare, saying he's calling middle-income Americans millionaires and billionaires. He actually includes every household earning more than $250,000. Page 2, his tax proposal says he will cut capital gains and dividends and interest rates for anyone with an adjusted gross income of under $200,000. It's an obvious contradiction. That's Barack Obama's position.
I always try to remind myself of Saul Alinsky when I get confused.
2 days, Newt Gingrich and Rick Perry have scorched the earth on how Romney burns people. And Romney today said, yeah, just like Obama.
I always try to remind myself of Saul Alinsky when I get confused.
It's always a burden for someone to run with R for Republican after their name.
But a lot of it was on issues. I felt like that there was a lack of authenticity on the sanctity of life issue and on the same-sex marriage issue and on the gun issue, issues that really matter to people in the Midwest.
I always try to remind myself of Saul Alinsky when I get confused.
Well, I'll put it in a nutshell. If we don't run Chris Christie, Romney will be the nominee and we'll lose.
Saul Alinsky wrote Rules for Radicals in '71 and dedicated it to Lucifer. He was the godfather of the leftist. Yes,
it wasn't
Satan.
Lucifer.
I'm not making it up.
Okay.
Lucifer.
It wasn't Lucifer Schwartz.
No,
it was just Lucifer.
I don't think Lucifer's a Jewish name. It wasn't Murray Lucifer Schwartz. No, he dedicated it to Lucifer. This is the godfather of the leftist movement.
I always try to remind myself of Saul Alinsky when I get confused.
You are not a Republican in any honest sense of the word. You are not a conservative on any level.
I'm someone who is moderate and that my views are progressive.
Revolutionaries do not flaunt their radicalism, Alinsky taught. They cut their hair, put on suits, and infiltrate the system from within. Alinsky viewed revolution as a slow, patient process. The trick was to penetrate existing institutions such as churches, unions, and political parties. Many leftists view Hilary as a sellout because she claims to hold moderate views on some issues. However, Hilary is simply following Alinsky's counsel to do and say whatever it takes to gain power.